Good morning, everyone. Hopefully you can either hear me. Nope. We're going testing. Okay. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Do you have it on? There you go. It's on. Press the white button. All right. Can you hear me? Okay. I'm not going to try to speak too loud into the microphone. Good morning, everyone. My name is Chris Seri. I'm the Acting Chief Climate Officer for USAID, and it's a real pleasure to welcome you this morning and having a great panel. So just before we get started, and I know you guys have all heard this because you're all ocean lovers a million times, but I always like to remember why we're here. We're kind of far away from the ocean right now, even though the Caspian Sea is nearby. Just take 2 deep breaths. So hopefully that'll both center us, but also always remember whenever we're away from the ocean that we're actually very connected in terms of what it provides for us, which is really the oxygen that we breathe. We all know that a thriving ocean is absolutely critical to slowing global temperature rise and avoiding the worst of climate change. It's often something not thought of, but it is incredibly important to our sustainable development goals, whether you're talking from an economics perspective, an environmental perspective, or a social perspective. But unfortunately, we are lacking financing to do a lot of projects in our ocean. And we really need to have much more of a discussion about how we're going to be increasing financing to really help small scale to large scale projects get started. And I'm really excited to have a panel here today that are going to talk about it from various perspectives. The hope is that we'll have a very engaging dialogue. If there's times, we'll even see if we can do some Q&A from the audience, because I think it's important for people to get asked questions. So just really briefly want to tell you a little bit about USAID's work, and then I know our panelists are going to speak about it, so I'm going to then turn it right over to our panel. So USAID is committed to working with communities and global partners, whether we're talking at the local, national, regional, or international level, to help build ocean financing and protect our oceans. In fact, just last week, USAID published a new report called Investing in Resilience, Blue Carbon Ecosystems, Communities, and Finance for the Indo-Pacific. So with 83% of global carbon circulating through our oceans, how we think about the oceans as part of the carbon market, and I'm not just necessarily talking about mangroves and seagrass beds, but all of the vital biodiversity that's part of it. We really need to think about it as part of that conversation. And here at COP, we were really proud to announce that we are investing $3.2 million to help mobilize marine climate finance. They're through a bunch of different programs, again, that you'll hear about. One is called the Coastal Resilience Carbon and Coastal Finance Initiative. We affectionately call it C3F. Which is really trying to look at working through USAID to build a pipeline of projects for our work. The second, which Lass will talk about, is about guarantees and the Nautilus Blue Guarantee Corporation. Ariana, I know, will probably talk a little bit about the Outrigger Impact Fund. And that's another social investment fund that we've been making some investments in. And then I know Dr. Husef and Dr. Manoni will probably talk about some of the direct investments USAID has done in community-based projects. So without any more, let me turn it over to our panelists. So I will introduce together as a group, and then I will go down the line and ask people to talk. So Ariana Steinsmeyer is the Global Outreach and Engagement Director at Aura. She comes with an extensive background in innovative financial instruments, conservation, and climate change policy, also sea change policy as well too. Les Pereira is a co-founder and CEO of the Development Guarantee Group, or DGG. He has extensive experience in debt capital markets and structured finance. Les has also been working with USAID, both through the Green Guarantee Corporation and Nautilus, so really looking forward to hearing about that work. Dr. Philemon Manoni has served with the Pacific Ocean Commission. He's been appointed by the Pacific Islands Leaders Forum, since 2023. And prior to that role, he served as the Deputy Secretary General at the Pacific Islands Forum Secretariat for 3 years. And joining us virtually is Dr. Gelwin Husef, who's Chairman of the Blue Abadi Fund Governance Committee and representing the Indonesian Ministry of National Development Planning. So, Ariana, let me start with you and tell us a little bit about the work that ORA is doing to help increase ocean financing.
Thank you so much, and great to be here. Happy Oceans Day. Thank you for also center us with that breath exercise, and I think what we have seen here at the Finance COP is really bringing together the biodiversity agenda coming from Kali, but also then now really focusing on bringing ocean-based solutions into the finance discussion. So thank you for facilitating this discussion. So ORA is an alliance with over 100 members. Our goal is, and our mission is really to bring new financial instruments through the collaboration between the different sectors, let it be the banking sector, finance and sector, as well as the insurance sector, together with our local partners, international NGOs, but also the business and the science here. And so over the past 5 years, not only we've grown our alliance to a more vibrant alliance to really foster this exchange, but through this exchange also we were able to build a pipeline of scalable products, especially finance and insurance products on the ground, which were locally driven. And some of that also is in collaboration with USAID, but also with DEFRA from the UK government. And we have been investing over the last 5 years more than 45 million into these local products. Some of them have been direct investments and other ones have been activating finance from our membership towards these communities. These are products like I think you mentioned parametric insurance. We had a panel just before this around mangrove or blue carbon ecosystem, so parametric insurance for small-scale fishers or reef positive businesses is one of the innovations which we were able to pilot and test in Indonesia and the Philippines and now scale in the Mesoamerican reef. But we're also working on more larger scale innovations. And last we'll talk a little bit about Nautilus, the guarantee company. You mentioned Outrigger. And Outrigger is an impact fund which will focus on making investable propositions with small island states. And I think also at this COP we have seen that there is a need to really support small island states or big ocean nations in helping them to figure out solution how to aggregate their scalable solutions to a more valuable business proposition, but also, and I think this is important, and Chris, I think you mentioned that before, when we think about these new innovative finance mechanisms and bringing especially the finance sector into the discussions, it's how do you make it in a way that it's really high integrity and high quality. So while we're building this pipeline, another example I want to highlight is really the work around setting up sort of these quality standards. So we have been collaborating with our members, for example, to build high quality blue carbon principles and guidelines. And that is really a contribution we found is useful in this nascent space, while obviously you have seen the discussion around blue carbon is really accelerating, and it's exciting to really see what is the potential, both ecologically, but also socially and economically, for integrating these solutions around blue carbon ecosystems within a community planning. And so for us, that's really important to make sure that these investments are high quality and high integrity, and really also helping different stakeholders to understand the role they're playing in bringing us to the next level. Together with USAID, also, we're really excited to collaborate on really looking at some specific countries. Therefore, what is the pipeline and what are the potential investment opportunities, both for blue carbon ecosystems, but also more generally around the regenerative, sustainable blue economy. And I think the last point point I want to make here is that it's really important to therefore also think about what are the national enabling conditions when you think about investment into the local level. And so currently we're also really excited to work with some of our partners to understand what are the enabling, what are the gaps. And so we have been collaborating with the Commonwealth Secretariat to foster actually exchange between the Commonwealth countries around the sustainable and regenerative blue economy financing options. And we hope also that that collaboration and exchange between Commonwealth countries can bring a signal to the overall community here as well, moving forward then from this COP to the next COP and really making sure that ocean is a vibrant part of the discussion.
Ariana, thank you very much. So last, I'm going to move over to you next. USAID has been happy to be a partner both with the Green Guarantee Corporation and now working on the Nautilus project. Would love to have you talk a little bit about what the Green Guarantee Corporation is, also what about Nautilus, and how the two differ in terms of the work that you're doing.
Thank you, Chris. I have a slide, and I'm not sure if it's available on this, is it? That might make life a little bit easier for the audience as well. Not that one. There we go. Okay. So I apologize. It's obviously, for the audience, it's a hard read, but it'll kind of give you a quick view, overview of what the two are. But look, fundamentally, why are guarantees important is probably a good place to start. When you think about finance, people will only want to put money into things that they really understand. And the challenge that we have with the ocean and also with other countries, a lot of the money is aggregated in certain parts of the world, right? New York, London, and so on, global capital financial centers. And for people to really be able to finance projects in the global south and in SIDS and in areas that they don't understand, like the ocean, they need to have some level of certainty and comfort around it. And this is really where the guarantee product can come into its own, and is also the reason why we created the Green Guarantee Company. And we are now in the process with USAID and Aura building Nautilus as well, the Blue Guarantee Company. Guarantees help give comfort to people. They give a certain level of certainty. They know that if something goes wrong, that we're going to step in and make sure that we help fix the problem, or if we can fix the problem, we can pay back the money that they put out. So it allows them to, in good faith, meet their responsibility to whoever is giving them that money to manage, that they are making investments that make sense, and that they are able to make sure that they're making the right decisions for those ultimate parties that they're supporting, their fiduciary duties. So this is why guarantees are important. Now, we, as Chris said, with the support of USAID, we launched the Green Guarantee Company earlier this year. And the focus of the Green Guarantee Company is really about bringing the big investors, the ones sitting in places like New York and London, and getting them to participate more in the global south. And for them, they need transactions which are at a minimum of $50 million or above, so very large transactions. Now, one of the challenges that we noticed in the ocean finance space is actually the average deal size is a lot smaller. You're looking at sort of single millions to sort of 10, 15 million as on average, depending which part of the world you're talking about. And so from a need perspective, there was a need for us to look at servicing that. But with the Green Guarantee Company, because of its mandate to try and bring these big investors in, we were kind of capped at that $50 million. And that's really where the opportunity came through us meeting Aura and being able to realize that actually there is this need. And we also have a good partner who really understands the ocean space that we can work with to start building Nautilus, which is focused on those more community-driven projects, smaller transaction sizes, and being able to reach out to parts of the world that GGC just won't be able to. So the two are actually complementary. Where there is a big project, so for example, with the Green Guarantee Company, we're working with a Caribbean island. They need to rehaul their entire waste management system because at the moment, their biggest industries are fisheries and tourism, but they're pumping sewage into the sea and they're basically killing their two biggest forms of livelihood. That's a very large, hundreds of million dollars transaction. They need the Green Guarantee Company to step in and help them with that. equally, we're talking to a fisheries business in the Seychelles, which is, very much smaller. They need $1 million to basically improve, to become more, to their practices, to become more sustainable. That's where Nautilus can step in and help a company like that. So the two play together, but they play in very different parts of the spectrum of that.
Last, thank you very much. I think next we're going to go to Dr. Husef. Good morning.
Hello. Yes. Allow me to use some slides for me to present this matter. First, good morning and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, the participants of today's talk show. And thank you for having me as the speaker for this session. As introduced by the moderator, Ibu Chris Sari, I'm chairing the Blue Abadi Fund Governance Committee. Blue Abadi is Indonesia's first marine conservation trust fund. Next. It was launched in February 2017 with committed funds from a variety of philanthropic and multilateral organizations. The Blue Abadi Fund was designed to provide a secure and steady long-term flow of funds to ensure that marine ecosystem and species of the bird's head seascape are sustainably managed and protected by the local environmental stewards, providing benefits to indigenous communities and local Papuan communities. As dedicated funding for a specific geographic scope, the Blue Abadi Fund is considered as one of the largest site-specific marine conservation trust fund globally. Next. The Blue Abadi Fund is comprised of two funds. First is a sinking fund, and the next one is an endowment fund. The sinking portion of the fund's reserves serves as a bridge to allow near-term funds distribution, while the endowment's capitalization continues to be strengthened. To date, the Blue Abadi Funds has secured $23 million in investing through the generous contribution of key philanthropic and public agencies. It was including the USAID, Walton Family Foundation, GF, MacArthur Foundation, Niataro, and others. Next, the Governance Committee, or we call it GC, is the decision-making body for the Blue Abadi Fund, which consists of representatives of various stakeholders here, including the central government, the government of West Papua and Southwest Papua provinces, the Papua People Assembly of Papua customary experts, donors, international NGOs, private sector, and financial experts. To support in decision-making process, the GC is supported by the Science and Conservation Advisory Committee, we call it SCAC. And then there's also a local representative committee, LRC, and the last one is Investment Advisory Committee, IAC. And the Yayasan Kehati, or Kehati Foundation, was appointed as Blue Abadi Fund Administrator, and under GC direction, will provide grants to local institutions working in the bird's head seascape in West Papua. To manage the Blue Abadi Endowment Fund, the GC appointed a trustee. The GC also appointed an investment manager to be responsible for managing the investment of Blue Abadi Fund Endowment Fund in accordance to the Blue Abadi Fund investment policy. Next slide, please. Guided by a 5-year strategic plan, the Blue Abadi Fund provides grant to local partners through two mechanisms. First is primary or big grants, and the second one is small innovation grants. The Blue Abadi Endowment Funds acknowledge the needs to center the social inclusion and equity in providing the grants in the bird's head seascape. This is governed in Blue Abadi Fund Operation Manual. It stated this to support indigenous-led stewardship efforts in bird's head seascape. A minimum percentage of primary or big grant and small innovations grant shall be distributed to Papuan civil society organizations, not include the academic institutions. The calculation for this minimum percentage, for example, applied in our upcoming cycle 5 grant is that around 37%. This is translated into a minimum of 800,000 US dollar to be distributed to West and Southwest Papuan civil society organizations out of total cycle 5 grants of 2.2 million US dollars. In fact, almost 1.2 million US dollar will be distributed to Papuan civil society organizations. Next, as guided in Blue Abadi Fund 2023-28 strategic plan, the Blue Abadi Fund grant funding can only be accessed by local organizations based in Papua region, and then Papuan civil society organizations operating in the Bird's Head seascape, including here is community groups, religious organizations, and customary or traditional councils. Also, the local universities and Institute for Research and Community Services. Local MPA management unit that has implemented accounting and financial reporting system. In addition, the BAF administrator provides capacity building and assistance to the prospective grantees in developing their proposal, including describing the local framework and translating the proposed activities into the budget. So next, I would like to show about the strategy here. We in the Blue Body Fund has 3 strategies. First, to support continued and improved management up to 5.2 million hectares of the marine protected area. And then the second one is socially, political, and economically support and learn from indigenous and local Papuan community. The third one is how to increase the BAF endowment and allocation capacity to improve opportunities for local driven conservation, sustainability, and also community development. BAF, our Blue Body Fund, conducts periodic impact assessment with the following results. Most ecosystem health indicators remain stable and show improvement. On human well-being indicators, the economic well-being indicators was stable, health, and education increased. MPA management effectiveness is continuing to improve, both using World Bank scorecard and emission scorecard, or we call it EFICA. Finally, the scores the four most marine resources governance indicators had remained low due to the transition of authority from district to provincial government. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Next, I want to turn to Dr. Manoni. Given all the work that's taking place on the Pacific Ocean Commission's the 2050 strategy for the Blue Pacific and Implementation Plan and the links in alignment with the Pacific Region Roadmap for Sustainable Development, as well as the work on the Pacific Ocean Alliance, what do you think are the opportunities to bring together new and varied finance to meet large-scale transboundary goals for marine conservation?
Thank you. You can hear me? Yeah? Thank you very much. And thank you for the invitation to speak at this panel. It is a pleasure to share some of the work that we are doing in the Pacific. But also to thank the USAID for scaling up presence in the Pacific with the office in Suva, Fiji. I think that is a first step to many more long-term partnerships in the Pacific with USAID. Yeah. But from the perspective of the Pacific, the ocean is to us contains the future. The sovereign wealth fund, the endowment, and all of that, because we're so intrinsically connected to the ocean that we don't want to live anything to chance. So we have been advocating at the global level, at the regional level, at all levels, to ensure that attention is paid to the impacts of climate on the ocean, most particularly the nexus between the oceans and climate. But when I say nexus, I don't mean only to speak to the questions of the triple planetary crisis of biodiversity, loss, pollution, and impacts, but I think this also transcends other areas, the social impacts, poverty considerations, because when you look at communities that rely on coastal resilience for their daily livelihoods, and governments that rely on ocean resources for 70% of national budgets every year, the impacts of climate on the sustainability of resources, the resilience and the health of the ocean could be catastrophic. So we are taking steps at the global level, at the regional level, and also in the national levels. The Pacific has been very vocal at the UN. The SDG 14 is an SDG that was driven by the Pacific. At the regional level, the Pacific has adopted an overarching regional ocean policy framework for which my office was created to help in strengthening the governance and management of the oceans and to ensure coordinated effort, alignment of policy, coherence at the regional level. And also at national level, if you look at some of the initiatives that particular countries have undertaken, for instance, the marine sanctuary that Palau had mandated in their exclusive economic zone, the Marae Moana Marine Park that the Cook Islands has instituted some years ago in their own exclusive economic zone. And we also have the newer Ocean Now initiative as examples of some of the innovative ways that the Pacific and countries in the Pacific are taking to help themselves. I mean, this is something we always hear from donors, from partners, from development banks, from multilaterals, that you have to do something to help yourself, help yourself. And we have taken that to heart, and we have not been sitting idle and doing nothing about the challenge that is confronting us. To the contrary, we have been working very hard. The problem, though, is that the impacts of climate are a big challenge. The challenge brought on by climate change, not only that directly impact the ocean, but whole of government, whole of society apparatus. Because the frequency of extreme weather events, you build your economy for 7 years and then you believe that you have a strong economy, and then suddenly in one fell swoop, one extreme weather event, there goes your GDP, there goes your economy, there go your workers, and you have to start from zero again. So this is sort of the challenge that the Pacific constantly facing over the years. And many countries, for example, Vanuatu was confronted by 2 hurricanes and a volcanic eruption in a space of 3 weeks in 2020. That's an example of the challenge that the Pacific community is facing in terms of what the impacts of climate change are having in the daily lives of communities. So yes, there is a great need to find support. I mean, we are very disappointed with the Green Climate Fund in the process to access that fund. And it does make us wonder why the fund was set up at all. It looks to us like a mirage. I mean, it is there, but it is so far away because of the challenge in accessing that. In one country's experience, it took $1 million and 3 years to finally launch the application, which is not acceptable. And I understand that the fund is considering reforms to ensure that there is easy access for small countries like the seeds in the Pacific. But again, we are not standing idle while that is happening. The Pacific has put forward a number of initiatives in terms of support to their communities. There is now about to be stood up a facility called the Pacific Resilience Facility, which is a Pacific-led, homegrown initiative to address the lack of access to finance that the Pacific is experiencing, so that its communities, those that are most vulnerable, are able to access support. And I think that also goes to your question about inclusivity. I think exactly what the niche of this facility is intended to do, to help communities that are vulnerable prepare to help them prepare for events of disasters and so forth. So, and we have received pledges, and thank the government of the United States for also pledging to the facility, and that we hope that others who are partners here in the room and those who may be listening, that also show the generosity to come forward and contribute to the fund. But we also now dealing with a new type of funding, and that's the philanthropic funding, which is also coming into the region. And there is an initiative now led by some of the organizations in the region to unlock the Blue Pacific prosperity. And this is an initiative that is supported through the Bezos Ed Fund, which has pledged already some money into that initiative. And we also hope to see other supporters, other friends, partners, and donors also contribute to that. But this is an initiative with 3 pillars. One on governance, oceans governance, strengthening food systems, and sustainability in ocean financing. So, like everything else we do, we are very concerned about the future of our communities, our future generations, and we are not prepared to sit idle and wait for the GCF to undertake those reforms and allow us that ease of access to financing. So I think our leaders are very, very concerned. Our leaders are adamant, and we hope that all the work that is also being done here at the COP and the parallel dialogue on oceans and climate also bring out some good news for us at the end of this week. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So at USAID, one of the things that we focus on is locally led inclusive development, that people that are closest to the impacts that climate change is occurring are in the best place to both identify the problem and develop the solution. So the idea of social inclusion and equity is very important. So I want to ask all our panelists, and Dr. Manoni, you kind of were talking about this in particular. how do we make sure that when we're looking at ocean finance, from your perspective, how do we really try to center that social inclusion, that local ownership in the work that we do? And I think you can both talk about the work you're doing, but I love that you mentioned the Green Climate Fund and some of the issues there. So how, as we talk about this financing, do you see that we need to make changes to make sure it is more accessible to people and it is really lifting up the livelihoods of everyone?
Thank you. Thank you. I definitely, certainly agree with that. That there need to be changes to ensure that the multilaterals, the funds, the banks, that there is the access to funding support is made a lot more easier for, especially for SIDS, who are at the forefront of this. But I think the initiative is, as I said, and also advocated for clearly under the 2050 strategy for the Blue Pacific on people-centered development, inclusivity across all the thematic areas of the strategy. And oceans to me as a community or as a region that relies on the ocean for everything from subsistence to economic development to nation buildings to health, knowledge, identity. Ocean is a cross-cutting in my point of view, because when you look at the impacts of climate on the ocean and its connections to every other sector of society, I think you will come to see that for communities in the Pacific, that there is a very clear link from the circumstances on the ground to the impacts of climate change on their livelihoods in the ocean. But a lot of communities, a lot of we say groups who sometimes are marginalized because of the lack of opportunity. So that type of aid should flow to communities on coastal areas who are doing their own work around conservation, local marine protected areas, and there are these initiatives across the Pacific supported through partners as well as governments and local governments that should be supported so that women entrepreneurs who are small businesses and who may even only fish for subsistence can have that nutrition, can have that protein, and have a good future for their children and their families around.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Dr. Madoni, I think just reflecting on what you're saying there, one of the things that really, see if I'm getting a bit of echo here. One of the things that really sort of hit me is that you talk about people wanting to be part of the solution, right? And I think there's been a lot of reliance on the trickle down, which is that the finance, from a finance perspective, that needs to come from other people downwards. And actually there are resources within nations that can be better used as well. So one of the focuses of Nautilus is really on how do we build capacity of the domestic financing banks, right? The domestic banks. So to give you the example in Seychelles, the local banks are sitting on a lot of liquidity. They just don't know how to invest it, or they're scared to invest it because they have a very low appetite for risk, even in their own country, which I find astounding, but it happens, right? And this is where, so that company I mentioned could get $1 million from a bank. There are companies in the Seychelles accessing $1 million, but there's very few privileged companies that are already quite big in the Seychelles that get that access. Smaller up-and-coming companies don't get that access because they seem to be more risky, even though they may have better, longer-term sustainable practices in play. And that's where, the guarantee product can come in and be helpful. And that's why, from a Nautilus perspective, we're putting as much emphasis on developing the domestic capital markets as we are attracting money from outside of the country as well. So I think that is as much part of the solution, which is building if investors from outside a country see a very strong domestic market for finance, they're going to be interested. It's attractive to them, right? It's going to be like, well, if those local banks are making money out of this, we can make money out of this. And I know in the context of conservation, that sounds like a negative thing to say about making money, but the fact of the matter is that's how finance works. So you have to meet people where they are and look at what their priorities are and then make it look like something that they could do. And so that's why we look forward to working with your organization alongside ORA and the USA to try and make that happen.
I don't know if we still have Dr. Youssef with us. Oh, we could do it. Good. Dr. Youssef, I don't know if you heard the question.
Yes. All right. About the social inclusion and equity in the ocean financing, as we discussed in this forum, we know that the Blue Body Endowment Funds so far is acknowledging what is needed by the people Center from the social inclusion and the equity provide the grants in the bird hat seascape. This is the one area in the Papua, and we know this is a very important for the conservation area. And this is the Blue Body Fund operational manual stated that to support the indigenous-led stewardship efforts, as I mentioned before, in this area, the bird hat seascape, with a minimum percentage and that as a one part must be distributed to the Papuan civil society organization, and not include the academic institution in this case. And one of the things that how to improve this social communities, we try to improve how that this one can be accessed, and it's open to anyone for the local organization based in Papua region, and they must operate in a bird hat seascape. And then the also can be accessed by the Papuan civil society organizations that operating also must be in the bird hat seascape, like community groups, religious organization, traditional groups, councils, and etc. And also by the local universities and institute for the research and community services. So also the local MPA management, even this is managed by the central or the province government, must implement what we call it the accounting and financial reporting systems. So based on this kind of thing, we here on the Blue Body Fund trying to do the social inclusion and equity, how we can finance the community in this area. That is my point.
Thank you. Ariana?
Yeah, thank you for this important question. Maybe start from the top down. We absolutely acknowledge that there's a problem of excess sort of financing. So I think what we as ORA were trying to do with our members is to think about what are the key cornerstones in building a capital market for the ocean, which then also meets sort of the needs of the most vulnerable communities. So most of the innovative financial solutions like Nautilus or Outrigger are really looking at from that perspective and making sure that accessibility is one of the, and inclusion is one of the key cornerstones and the principles here. We're doing this by building the capacity in country, and I've mentioned already sort of some of the initiatives of building these working groups of South-South learning, but also bringing in the finance ministries. And I think that has been something we really want to, in the next 12 months, dive deep into, to include sort of the finance minister, understand like what is the power, and last you mentioned it, not only what is the power of unlocking sort of domestic finance, but what are the innovative financial institutions or initiatives we can build in country to really foster and access more climate and ocean-based finance. Connected with this, I already mentioned earlier the high-quality blue carbon principles and guidelines, but we also want to make sure that there are so many different taxonomies and KPIs around ocean and biodiversity, but really how do we therefore also include social and equity within this? So we're really looking into that and making sure that all of these initiatives are really high standards in that regard as well. And then last but not least, more from a bottom-up approach, most of the local solutions, and again, we really wanted to make sure that these are locally driven and local innovations, but some of the lessons learned also through the work with USAID when we are piloting these, it's a very nascent space, and some of these things have not been done before. And so really also having that patience, but the patience also to build the capacity on the ground for these leaders to think that through and to build a more holistic approach around, insurance products or finance products or fintech related products as well, has been really powerful. And we have seen in the past 5 years, building that capacity has built a very investable opportunity for these smaller scale businesses to access some of these domestic but also international financing. I think inclusion also starts at the local level by building sort of financial and social inclusion in terms of, financial literacy, finance clubs, and so some of the locally led solutions we have been building needed to be embedded into these social economic structures on the ground to be able to be viable. And I think when we talk about finance, we shouldn't also forget that on the local level, especially when you think about small-scale fishers, for example, they have been thinking from day to day in terms of their financial planning, sort of really not being able to think much abroad. So there are small steps. You have to help them to think about sort of a weekly financial sort of planning or monthly, and then build slowly that capacity to integrate that then with innovative solutions, which helps them to have that financial resilience and literacy moving forward.
Thank you. I'm just going to take a moment to see if there's any questions from the audience. I'm going to bring it to you.
Thank you. I have actually 2 questions. One is for Lars. So thank you for actually explaining us that green guarantee company. So question is about the logistics. How does it work? Like, do you get actually the commitments from the high net worth companies, or actually is it more like insurance where it works by providing the guarantee? And then, so second thing is, does it actually apply for only the low risk investors like banks, or can the high-risk investors like venture capitalists can also get the support from that kind of a green company?
Thanks for the question. So, sorry, just bear with me 1 second. So the Green Guarantee Company focuses on debt only. So we won't be available for equity products, so venture capital, things like that, unfortunately. And the way we work is we work with, because we're like an insurance company, right? So we will basically provide the guarantee to an investor. And the way we find the deals that we work on are through what we call origination partners. Those could be large banks or financial advisors that are active in the markets that we're interested in. And they will bring to us a project and say, right, this we think meets your criteria. Are you prepared to provide a guarantee to it? And then we'll do our due diligence and then decide, yes, this is something that meets our criteria, and we want to do the deal and do that. I feel your pain, Dr. Manoni. We do have the Green Climate Fund as an investor. We were told we were fast-tracked, and it still took 2 years to get the money. But the good news for the Green Guarantee companies, we try and get deals done within 6 months. So we try to be much more commercial and do that. Yeah. Yeah, happy to. Yeah. Did that answer your question? Yeah. Good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If it helps to know, I was in a panel with the Green Climate Fund, and they are taking steps to streamline their process. So I think they've heard the concerns and the need to move faster. So hopefully we'll see some changes from there. Any other questions from the audience at this time? Nope.
Are there additional examples you can share, especially around indigenous funds that are sovereignly managed or funds in the Pacific that are well managed by Pacifica people, granted by large international NGOs and governments?
There are those such funds. I think the first sort of such initiatives, of course, the Pacific Resilience Facility that leaders, members are standing up at the moment. And of course, the other is the initiative around unlocking the Blue Pacific prosperity. So two initiatives I can think of at the moment. But there are, I think there were attempts in the past at something like a regional institution, a bank, but that didn't go too far, I think, for obvious reasons, capacity, support, and so forth. So at the moment, the Pacific's focus is maybe getting the Pacific Resilience Facility funded, and I think there will be a pledging event around UN next year.
Dr. Youssef, I didn't know if you wanted to add some more information about Blue Abadi or other work that might be taking place.
I think I don't have any more that would like to share in this case. It's all right, enough, I think. Thank you.
Thanks. Oh, go ahead.
Thank you very much. My name is Antonio. I'm currently an MPhil student in Blue Economy. Yes, and I'm managing a project on mangrove restoration adaptation. Yeah, I just want to find out some of the funds that are available in Africa that can help us also upscale some of the projects that we are doing. Thank you.
Yeah, do you want to answer that?
Well, I was going to first ask, where in Africa are you working?
Ghana.
In Ghana, okay. One of the things we can do is I'll get your information afterwards to see about some of the work that USAID might be doing in the area. Ariana, I don't know if you want to, I know you were just talking about mangroves and blue carbon projects, if you have any other comments you want to add.
Yeah, I'm not sure about any specific sort of Africa-based opportunities there, but I know that through the Mangrove Breakthrough and some of these initiatives, there will be increased sort of funding available, especially also in terms of making sure that project developers are informed about, I mentioned the high-quality blue carbon principles and guidelines and around sort of technical assistance as well. So yeah, more than happy to connect with you after. I think also the Micronesia Trust Fund is probably one of the good examples to which some of our members are have been developing, and it's now already, I think, celebrating more than 10 years of successful implementation on the ground. And I think these are some of the examples where especially these regional initiatives have been quite powerful also to bring forces together to build these regional trust funds as well. And I think maybe one thing to add in terms of financing is that while we are also as ORA really piloting new innovative solutions is really also to call for action in terms of recognizing the existing ones, and some of the vehicles like trust funds and others have been really successfully managing finance, especially sort of on the regional and national level. And so now in terms of also integrating biodiversity and climate finance, understanding more and more how these existing institutions can also be helpful in streamlining these both agendas. And you mentioned also the third one in terms of pollution and other sort of threats. One thing I wanted to add in terms of also empowerment from the local level to really not only access finance, but also make better decisions to then see where finance is needed is some of the tools we have been just launching called the Coastal Risk Index. That is an open source tool which we have developed with some of our members to predict coastal flood threats in the next 5, 10, 20, 30 years. And that's a data source which highlighted that assets in the coastal communities are currently protected by a nature-based solution and ocean-based solution, particularly mangrove and others. And what are in the next years the prediction of how these ecosystems are at threat? And if they are at threat, what is the impact on the coastal assets? And that's annually around 400 billion, as well as also 14 million people are more at threat in getting sort of affected by flooding. So with these tools, like the Coastal Risk Index, also coastal communities, as well as investors, private investors and others, can really sort of understand better than what is the risk they're facing, but also how can they invest into locally led ocean-based solutions to then reduce these threats as well. And I think that's important also when we think about access and finance and making these decisions around where finance is best used.
I completely agree. Thank you. I think we have time for one more question, so I'm going to kind of merge two things in together. One, I'd like all of our panelists to talk a little bit about how do we start where we are now and try to scale up investment? Because we've been talking about the need for more investment. How do we scale it up? And then two, if you can answer, what's kind of the one takeaway or the one thing you would like everybody leaving this meeting to do or to know about as we try to move ocean financing forward? Dr. Manu, why don't you have the mic? Go for it.
Thank you. I think sort of wrapping up the two questions in a single response, perhaps. I think partnerships are very important, at least for us in the Pacific, in terms of working together to address these climate challenges and access to finance and support. So long-term, genuine partnerships that come in understanding the lay of the land first and not, coming in with preconceived idea of what the solution should be, but coming in and understanding the challenge and working together with communities at the local level to design solutions that are appropriate for circumstances.
Thank you. Do you want to go?
I think the key thing that's missing in the ocean finance space is a sufficient number is data, basically, right? We need more data for people to understand what they're investing in and the benefits and the risks of actually what they're investing in. And that's where actually I think, the takeaway I'd ask for the audience to do is, what can I do to change that? So I'll give you an example. The gentleman who asked a question around Ghana, you're doing a PhD, I believe, or something in MPhil, I beg your pardon, in blue economy. It's the academics that create these case studies. And okay, actually another takeaway for you guys. Do you know the reality about finance? It's 80% psychological, 20% technical. We invest in stories, right? The people who tell the best stories, they get the money. And so but stories can be only told well if you have a basis on which to tell them. And that's where the data and the stories come in. We need people to create more good stories about the ocean for people to finance.
Yeah, thank you. I think really the cross-collaboration, you mentioned partnership already before, but I think we really have seen the power of these collaboration and also investing into or coming out with new innovative solutions. I think we have talked about the innovation of a more community-led approach and really I think the key takeaway we have seen in that pipeline building we have done the last 5 years that there are tremendous locally innovation which is now able to be scaled. And in terms of scaling these, I think one thing we're looking forward and the next 6 to 12 months, and that's maybe one of the key takeaways, that there is an enormous opportunity now to move forward from this COP to the UN Ocean Conference, and we're part of the steering committee of the Blue Economy Finance Forum, where we want to bring these scalable, innovative solutions to then have investors coming in. But at the same time also understanding that the financial sector is playing a big role, and we have one of our partners, Deutsche Bank here, and they're committed to what's called Back Blue. So it's also understanding if sort of bank and the financial sector is shifting their investment into the more regenerative and sustainable blue economy. That is very powerful too. So it's really understanding what role the different stakeholders in the regenerative and sustainable blue economy plays. And I think that's where really Aura comes in and help each of the stakeholders play the most powerful part in scaling up innovative financial solutions.
Thank you. Dr. Youssef.
Yes. Thank you. When we talk about the how about the scaling up for this financing, I would like to say that based on what I'm working now on the scope of the Blue Body Fund, that we need to strengthen its capacity and how we participate in this financial market. And this matter is well, I think, regulated in the Blue Body Fund Operation Manual, and what is detailed in the investment policy from this Blue Body Fund. As I illustrated in my slide earlier, the Blue Body endowments is managed by a trustee, which is based on Singapore, and this endowment fund is invested in a financial market by an investment manager in accordance to the Blue Body Fund investment policy and supervised by the investment advisory committee. And I would like to add some of my experience now. In Indonesia, we also seek another schemes that we feel that is important. We are now having what we call it like the what you call it the ocean or apa itu namanya debt nature swap, with the U.S. Treasury. So we receive this amount from the debt nature swap, and we can invest in the conservation from this area. And we also now creating what we call it from the World Bank and from the GF, what we call it the bonds that especially for the ocean. In this case, for how we manage our coral reefs to meet the standard what with the US IUCN standards green list. So this is what we would like to have more on our endowment fund to scale up in this case. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to thank all of our panelists. So I'm just going to do a quick summary because I know we're at the end. Partnerships, incredibly key. So building on success. I think you said going now next to UNOC, as well as being the person that can help create those partnerships. Last one, I loved what you said as a policy person, is that finance is 80% storytelling and 20% data. So we're all good at data, so we can do that, but we're even better at storytelling. So making sure that we're telling that story and not being scared to try to go out and look for financial investments. So I hope everybody will join me in thanking the panelists for this great panel. Really appreciate all their insights.